An attractive, solidly built, and cost-effective FM receiver is a bit of a rarity these days. It's mostly just integrateds and streaming integrateds, but Arylic has gone and made one. And if I'm being honest, it's a bit of an instant recommendation for me. It's got 60 watts a channel, which is more than enough to power most entry-level bookshelf speakers, maybe a couple floor standers as well, and it retails for $239 US. It's actually 100 watts into 4 ohms and 60 into 8. It's built around a TPA 3255 amp chip with an ESS Sabre 9023P DAC. Frequency response is 20 to 20. You get Wi-Fi, AirPlay, Spotify Connect, and Bluetooth wireless streaming. You get the aforementioned FM radio, and you get to customize your own preset stations. You get KTV singing and broadcasting with any audio sources supported. You can also listen to music off your NAS. You get one RCA, one phono, optical, coaxial, and one USB input. You get 2 front mic inputs and 1 front USB input, though it's limited to 100 songs somehow. You can also access other online music services like Amazon Music, Tidal, Qobuz, TuneIn, BBC Radio, Internet Radio, iHeartRadio, Radio Paradise, and Napster. But the big one for me is the power brick is now built into the unit, so it's no longer an external power brick that leads to like messy wire clutter or anything. It's just a single power cable coming out of the unit. I prefer it so much more. There's no remote pack with the A100. What you do is you download 2 apps, there's Go Control and ForStream, and you use those to control the A100. Go Control is how you access your listening settings, their tone controls, your graphic equalizer, crossover, and whatnot. And then ForStream is how you access your streaming services. I use Spotify, so ForStream just bounces me back to Spotify. I select the A100, I'm off to the races. There's also no HDMI eARC on board, which makes this a non-starter to connect to my TV. But at $239 US, I'm not going to complain about that omission. Plus for the fact that Arylic makes other products that do have that functionality that come in at around $250, like the H50. And at that price, I have 2 systems that come in at around $500 US that have a ton of functionality between them, can be set up in different rooms, and can also be used in multi-room playing the same music together. There's not much to complain about there, so I'm not going to. When I first started diving down this rabbit hole of small Class D amplifiers, I admittedly turned my nose up at them. I didn't think they were worth all the hype that they were getting online, and I didn't think they sounded as good as entry-level integrated amplifiers from more reputable established brands. That being said, the more I've listened to these products, the more I've started to enjoy them. And now that I've had a few in-house and they've been left behind, I've gone ahead and just sold my own personal integrateds, my NAD 326 BEE and my Cambridge CXA 60, because they were older, they have older connectivity, which dates them and makes them less usable, less functional in the modern day. But crucially, they have a larger footprint, which makes them more cumbersome in my condo now, where I have space constraints, where I have one primary setup, that's where all the full-size gear goes, and that's where I listen to that. But in the studio, like, I have some full-size gear on display that I do have connected, but in my bedroom, I need something smaller. On my desk, I require something smaller or powered speakers. For my DJ setup, unless it's connected to whatever's on my desk or over there, a smaller amp would be much preferred. And so I find myself using these Class D amps more and more because they're just so much easier. And while the sound from my full-size integrateds was better, it was only marginally better, and providing that I'm not listening at reference levels, I'm pretty good with these small amps. And speaking of space constraints, where I have this setup isn't the most ideal place, nor do I actually need an amplifier there. I have it on a white metal shelf in this weird nook that is opposite my kitchen. Technically, I don't need a system here because I'm steps away from my living room, but I'm essentially treating this like my kitchen/dining room setup, where in my former home, I had a kitchen, I had a fairly large dining room, and I had a pair of speakers and an amplifier connected, and we can cook, we can listen to music, we can enjoy ourselves, dance around. That's how I'm treating this, but I'm doing this as an example in my tiny condo where edge to edge of that shelf, that's the length of that wall. It's the everyday music device. As you can see, I have the amp bookended by a pair of Totem Loon bookshelf speakers connected to the Alva TT V2 turntable from Cambridge Audio, and I also have a sub, the B&W 610, connected just for a little extra oomph. I really like the simple design of this product. When it was released, I reached out immediately. It was like, hey, Can I get a hold of one of these? Because this is by far the prettiest thing that you guys make. They sent it over, and in person, I can concur, it is the prettiest amplifier they make. With one caveat, it's pretty when it's powered on. When it's powered off, it's completely bereft of any information. Once it's on, the navigation illuminates, and it looks as it does in the photos. The buttons are all capacitive touch. The front face has a 2.4-inch black and white OLED display. To the left of that, you get a power on-off switch, and to the right of it, you get the multifunction volume knob with 12 touch-sensitive buttons, and to the right of that are the mic inputs. When you first get this project unboxed and into place, you have to get it connected to your network. Use the multifunction volume knob, a few presses, you get your password in, and you're off to the races. But when you do power the unit down and back on again, there is a bit of lag and time for it to get set up and into your network again. It's about a minute or so just bear that in mind. What I find worked for me is just turning it on at the beginning of the day, turning it off at the end of the day. The lack of a remote, I can understand how that might irk some people, especially if you live in a larger space, but everything's controllable on your phone, and who doesn't have their phone handy these days? And sample size of 1, my place is so small, everything's at arm reach, so I can just reach over and just adjust the volume fairly easily myself. But sample size of 1. As far as FM radio goes, I was really excited to try it until I realized that where I have this set up in my condo makes for really bad FM reception. So I can confirm it works, it's just staticky and sounds horrible. Where it does actually work is standing on my balcony, and that's where it works and I get good reception, but it's also snowing outside right now, so. And multi-room, it does work. I have this set up in my kitchen, H50 set up in my bedroom. I mostly listen to podcasts this way. That way, when I'm cleaning out my condo, I can listen and I never miss a word. It's a really nice feature to have. I do have fairly shoddy Wi-Fi in my bedroom, so every so often it does drop out, but then it instantly reconnects. If you are going to use this, just make sure you have a good, strong Wi-Fi signal, or just hardwire these units and it'll work no problem. Okay, so where I have this set up, just opposite my kitchen, on a white metal shelf, with the speakers less than a meter apart, it sounds pretty good for what it is. The totem looms don't sound as expansive and as good as it did in my living room where they're 8 feet apart on stands, but for what this setup is, I think it sounds pretty good. And with this setup, I find myself wanting to listen to more chilled out or more relaxed music. A lot of my chill out playlist, ambient music, or even my 90s R&B playlist is what I tend to go to because I'm cooking with my kids or doing arts and crafts on the dining table. I don't want to rile them up because if I rile them up, it's WrestleMania all of a sudden in this house, so that's what I tend to go with. I was listening to Tides from Nit and Sahi. It sounded really, really good. Better than I expected it to sound. And with the Go Control app, I just notched up the bass by 2 notches, and I found that just rounded out the bass energy that was sort of missing with these speakers stuck into a shelf. One thing that does sort of help though, without a sub, is there's a deep bass setting, and I found that 5% max was all I needed on the Totem Loons. But with a sub connected, I disabled deep bass altogether because I just didn't need it. Tide sounds as big and as full on the Totem Loons as I think it could have given the space restrictions I've imposed on this speaker. But crucially, I forgot that I was listening to a Class D amplifier. It sounds really, really good. And I don't miss any of my integrators that I've previously sold because having this in place, sounding this good, makes me just want to use this moving forward in this configuration. And it's kind of awesome to know that I could take a fairly expensive speaker, pair it with a fairly inexpensive amplifier, constrain them both to a small shelf, and be completely happy with the results. And if you were to do the same, but you just set these speakers further apart, maybe on stands, you'd be treated to a better sonic presentation than the one I have, and I'm already smitten with the results. All right, so as you can tell, I think the world of this product. I think it's really good value for your money. It's got enough connectivity. It's got enough power. It looks really pretty. And if you're looking for an amplifier for an extra set of speakers, it's a good option to have. But also, if you're looking for your first amplifier, this is such a good option because you could take this, pair it with a nice budget pair of speakers, and you'd be completely happy. And then if you chose to upgrade your speakers down the line, you can do so and still use this amplifier. It's kind of a no-brainer. Thanks for watching.